So to get started, we'll summarize our previous call. Previous call was 2 weeks ago on Thursday. We do these pretty much every other Thursday. So anyway, we did what was called the lead generation overview. So the overview, good morning. The overview was meant for, to kind of walk through the different types of lead generations that are out there. We covered sphere of influence, real basic on that. We covered for sale by owners and expireds. We also covered farming and, which is geographic and demographic. And then we covered some web lead stuff. And so, and then to kind of coincide with that, we actually had the Facebook workshop on yesterday. Actually, it turned out pretty good. I mean, according to the feedback, it was good. I was, I had never done it before, so I'm usually feeling a little off kilter when I do it the first time. The second time usually flows a little better. So, but anyway, so that was kind of, and that was kind of designed to coincide with that stuff. I keep pounding the whole lead generation thing because that's the only thing that really matters. Everything else is lead generation will solve every other problem. So with that said, so let's get going. This week is lead generation part 2, and then what we're going to cover this week is we're going to cover like basically what is a lead, that type of stuff. So let's get going on that, right? So let's hit the right screen. So what is a lead, right? So my definition of what is a lead is someone that has raised their hand with some sort of real estate want or need, right? So they may want to buy something, they may need to buy something, or may need to sell something. That's a want or a need. So let's talk about that, right? So what are some examples? Are web inquiry, right? Somebody's on your website, they ask you a question, or they just register while looking at homes. A sign call, that's an obvious, right? Somebody called on a sign. A for sale by owner. I mean, even though they're not contacting you, but a list of for sale by owners, I mean, they have raised their hand with some sort of real estate want or need, right? An expired listing, same thing. And then SOI or past clients with real specific real estate questions. So not all, what do you call it? We got people popping in. So not all, welcome those just joined. So not all SOI are having real estate need at the time, but if they're calling you up or emailing you with specific questions, then, that's obviously someone raising their hand with some sort of real estate want or need, right? So, so that's kind of that's a lead, right? But then, now the next part of that is, so that doesn't mean every one of them is getting ready to buy something. Or sell something. So what is a qualified lead? Now we're going to take a lead up a notch, right? So if we said that the other leads are, anybody that's raised their hand, that group of people, but then let's qualify lead. What is a qualified lead? Someone that has raised their hand with a real estate want or need, but this is the big key, right? But, qualified lead, and this is very, very important to really get your head around. To have what I call a qualified lead is someone that can answer 3 questions. And you guys heard me preach it over and over and over. These 3 questions are why, why are you moving? And why is very, very important, because why sometimes will dictate the when and the where. So I will give you, good morning, I'll give you an example of a client I had years ago that he actually had equity in the property, but he was getting ready to lose the house. It was going to foreclosure. So, and because we had to sell it quickly, he wound up netting $10,000. Now, because he was netting money, I mean, so the why was so strong that we knew when, because the bank was getting ready to foreclose, so we had to sell it quickly. But the where wasn't really as critical, because he had to figure out a place to live, but he wasn't going to go buy something, but he had 10 grand to go do it. So, I mean, I didn't feel too bad. I mean, I felt bad that he lost, but if he'd came to us about 2 months earlier, 3 months earlier, we could have netted him maybe 15,000, close to 20,000. But so anyway, but his why was so strong, it didn't matter. So why is very, very important, right? So then the next question is when, when are you moving? So, and then when, so let's talk about that. So somebody that says, well, like that, for example, they're going to be foreclosed on. Well, we know when they're moving real, real soon. So that's a highly motivated lead. So, folks, if you're gonna, try mute your phone if you're gonna be making noises on there. So I'm talking through the computer. The computer solution doesn't give us the ability to mute all people like a phone. So I prefer to talk on my headset than the phone. But do me a favor and just mute your phone. Anyway, so when, I mean, the when is important, right? Because when kind of qualify different types of leads, and we'll cover those in it shortly. But so you want to know if they're moving now. When are they doing it? Do they have to move right away? Is it a year from now? I mean, they could still be a year away and be a qualified lead. So then the third question is where, right? So if you're talking to somebody and they're saying like, "Well, I want to move," I'm like, "Well, why do you want to sell your house?" Well, we're just kind of thinking about it. Okay, well, is that's the not a very good reason. I mean, they're basically they haven't given you the reason yet. You need to keep probing, and then say, well, when would you like to sell your house? And they're like, well, we're not sure. Well, if you sold it, where would you move to? Well, we're not sure. Well, then you got to believe you got a tough lead there. If at best, either they're really holding their cards very very close to the vest, or they're really not that motivated to move. Because remember, the pain of not moving has to exceed the pain of moving. So if the pain of not moving has to be so strong that you don't have a deal. So in other words, I'm moving to Seattle, and I got to sell the house. So, okay, well, that's a very good reason. That's a very highly motivated person. So, and folks, can you please mute all your phones? Just put your personal phone on mute. Just look for your phone and hit the mute button. I can hear like typing and that kind of stuff. So anyway, and then where? So where is important, right? Because if they don't know where they're going, then maybe not move. They might not move yet, but that's not the case. The number one important one is why. So let's talk about the next ones. Let's see. So, all right. So, and then let's talk about the next one. So then let me hit. Oops, let's see. So once we identify a lead, we break them. Look, I spelled the word breaker. I mean, spell check didn't catch it. I got break as in motor, stop the car kind of break. We break them into two groups, and the two groups are what I call inside 30, and then so an inside 30 is someone who is going to sign a contract, whether it be a listing contract, a buyer agency contract, a purchase contract, someone who's going to sign a lead in the next 30 days, right? And 30 days not a hard and fast rule. I mean, 31 is the same concept. 35 is still the same concept. So, folks, if you're just joining the call, please put your phones on mute so that we avoid some of the distractions. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, and that's an inside 30, somebody that's going to do something. So, and then the second category is outside 30, right? But an outside 30, let's say you talk to somebody right now, we are September, almost October, and you're talking to them and they say, well, I'm going to move. And they go, well, when do you plan on moving? And they go, well, I finished law school in June. I graduate May or something like that. And then as soon as I graduate, I'm going to be moving to Arizona. I've already been recruited by a law firm in Phoenix. And then I'm going to sell my condo up by the U, and I'm moving to Phoenix as soon as I graduate law school. Well, you have a highly qualified lead, right? Because they know why, when, and where. I mean, but the thing is, they're not going to move for, 7, 8 months, whatever that is. So now there are two different types of leads, right? You're not going to follow up with them the same way each lead, right? Somebody that's inside 30, right? So we'll talk about that. So an inside 30 is someone that can answer why, when, and where, and they will sign a contract in 30 days. Remember, 30 days is not a line in the sand. So it's more of a conceptual number than it is an actual line in the sand. So, but we know they're going to sign some kind of contract soon. So how do you follow up with an inside 30? So for me, it's you stay on top of them. You have to stay on top of them. Because remember, so I say you follow up with them at least every other day, especially when they're becoming inside 10 or 15. So as they get closer and closer, remember, whatever they tell you, if they say follow up in 2 weeks, you call them in a week or less. So whatever they tell you, you cut in half. They tell you to call them in a month, you're calling in 2 weeks, 2 weeks to 10 days, whatever they tell you. Because remember, here's the thing. Remember, they are showing up on other agents' radars, right? So we all know the reticular activator. You buy a Toyota and you start seeing Toyotas everywhere, right? So why is that? Because you're now focused on Toyotas. That's why. Well, what are real estate agents focused on? Real estate agents are focused on people that are moving. So that means the person that is moving, right, is starting to show up on the radar of other real estate agents around. So you need to stay on top of them, because if you lollygag, they're going to go to somebody else. I mean, because the other person, it's not that they're going to go to somebody else is going to them. So it's very, very important to stay on top of them and mix it up, right? Emails, text, phone calls, door knocks, right? So, I mean, so you don't just call them like every 2 days and just say, hey, how's it going? But I mean, but don't be afraid to send them a text. Hey, just was thinking about you. How's it going? Blah, 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 and then call them up, send them an email. Hey, do you have any questions? Just wanted to know if you're still on track, if your timing's still going well, and all that kind of stuff. So, it's very important to do that. So, and if you're staying on top of them, and I recommend every other day, I kid you not, I would rather be told I was too aggressive than to drive by and see somebody else's sign in the yard. If I had to pick between the two, that's the one I want. So being accused of being aggressive. Now remember, when you're aggressive, you're only aggressive, or you're only. And let me rephrase that. You're only annoying to unmotivated people when you're aggressive. So if somebody has to sell their home, you're on what I call a sales audition. And if you're following up with them, then, somebody that's highly motivated and has to sell their home, they like you. You're becoming music to their ears. If they don't have to move, now you're annoying. Right. So, I mean, that's the way it is. You get a telemarketing call for a product for something you're not in the market for. It's an annoying call. Do you ever get, a few weeks ago, or maybe back the end of July, I walked into Costco, and I had been online thinking about DirecTV so I can get the NFL ticket. Walked into Costco. The guy goes, interested in DirecTV? Absolutely. Right now, I walked right over to his little kiosk and bought it right there on the spot. I mean, I was in the market, so he was not annoying to me. If I were not in the market for that, I would have been, I wouldn't have been totally annoyed. But I mean, you get the difference, right? Because I was looking for that. I wanted that. I mean, he was just sweet music to my ears. Wound up getting for a discount. Plus, I got a $300 card. I mean, I was so glad I did it, right? So now I get to watch my favorite team on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, whichever the case may be. So anyway, so remember, you're only annoying if they're not motivated. If they're inside 30, they're motivated. So you need to stay on top of them, right? Does that make sense? So of course you figured out that an outside 30 is someone that do something in more than 30 days. So we described what an outside 30 is, someone that maybe moving it doesn't have to be 31 days, but at least 2 months, right? So, I mean, you're not going to follow up with somebody every other day for 2 months. But if they're 2 months out, then you just kind of keep in touch with them, maybe every week, send them an email or text once every week, or at least 2 weeks, follow up with them, right? So then after that, you just keep on top of them. And then when they move into inside 30, then you convert them over to an inside 30 lead. But if they're going to be like anywhere from, 3 months or more, I would treat them like an SOI. So, and I recommend, for those of you that are guests on the phone, not inside Aubrey & Associates, we teach here at Aubrey & Associates that you will touch your SOI twice a month. And Aubrey & Associates actually has a direct mail marketing solution that we actually do the mail for you. You finance it, but we actually fulfill it. You just have to upload your list in a spreadsheet, and we actually mail it out to all your database. So twice a month, we send a market statistic postcard, and we send a letter out every month. So if somebody's 6, 7 months or 4 months or anything, so you want to put them on that kind of program. So they're getting touched twice a month, but as they start moving closer, and all you have to do is just simply put them on a Google Calendar, and then, to contact them 3, 4 months from now, whatever, right? So, you may want to touch base with them every once in a while and say, hey, is everything still on track? Just to see where they're at. And then they may say, yeah. So that's kind of an outside 30, right? So But they kind of fall into a couple things, right? They could be 2 months to 2 years as long as they can definitely answer why, when, and where. The example we gave of the guy graduating law school that's going to move next May or June definitely can answer those questions, but they're definitely far out. So somebody you want to keep in touch with, right? Does that make sense? So if they're more than 3 months or more, I would contact them twice a month, like an SOI. Already said that. Once they're inside 30, then obviously you need to pick up the pace. So again, mix it up: emails, text, phone calls, door knocks. Stop by. Hey, I was in the area. Just like stop by. Whatever, right? So things like that. So what systems to use to follow up, right? That's always the big question. So here's my first answer to that is I don't care what you use as long as you use it, because whatever you use is perfect, right? There's so many different products out there, your top producers and your realty jugglers and all those kind of products, and they're all a little different. So and some of them are better for different behavior styles, different personalities. Me personally, I simply use Google applications. I just put things on my Gmail calendar. I don't complicate things. You should only, I mean, if it like Pro Agent, we use the Pro Agent site, so we have leads in there. Love Pro Agent because Pro Agent builds a hot sheet automatically, so that if they're searching your website, they're getting emails every time a new listing comes out every day. So the system's following up with you until they raise their hand. Once they raise their hand, then I move them over to my Google calendars, right, or my Google contacts. So, so the things I got. So I recommend that you have set mail days, right? So if you're going to send, so the first thing you do if you're talking to somebody that's a lead, I'm going to say you send them out, a handwritten card, right? Next day, hey, it was great talking to you. Put your business card in there. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Here's my cell phone number. So put your cell right in there, right? So then, so anyway, but if you're doing mailers like that, if you're doing follow-up mailers, follow-up postcard, things like that, you would what do you call it? Let's see. I think I dropped it. Oh, well, no, mind. So if you're getting things like that, you would, what do you call it? If you're doing a little direct mail marketing, handwritten cards, things like that, you can, you want to set it up to the same day where you're mailing everybody on the same day. So like if you have a direct mail follow-up, so real simple direct mail follow-up for individual cards. We're not talking about your bulk SOI mailers where you mail everybody, mail 100 people, whatever. But I'm talking about if you have a lead and you want to do say a postcard campaign to them, I recommend you just print up. You have a series of postcards. You print 8 labels. You put the labels on there, and then out of the 8 postcards, 2 of them are phone calls, right? So when you get to that postcard, so what you do is you take that stack, you put a rubber band around it, and then say Tuesday's your mail day. Every Tuesday, you open up your little shoebox, whatever you use, and then you just pull out each pile. You take the top postcard and mail it. That's it. It's that simple. Don't complicate lead follow-up. Your IDX solution can have 150 leads, 200 leads, 500 leads, but the leads that you're literally hot leads where you're following up inside 30 leads, you should, really no more than a dozen of those. If you have way more than a dozen, then you're probably not qualifying hard enough. I believe that if you qualify them to get rid of them and just focus on the ones that make the most sense, you'll have better success. So I'll kind of repeat that little simple follow-up thing. You print 8 postcards, right? So even if it's a quarter-page postcard, where you have 4 to a page, and then have a 2-page document. So 2 of those postcards it just says phone call, and then you print 8 labels. You put a label on each one, so that when you put the stack, and then you put a rubber band around the pile, and then you put that pile in a box or folder, whatever. Every Tuesday you mail the top one. Doesn't matter, so you can have 10, 12 different leads, and they could be at all different phases, but your pile postcards will tell you exactly where you're at. So it's a great way of, it's a very, very simple solution, opposed to trying to get bogged down with complicated software. So anyway, so that's kind of that. So let's see, I recommend these. So how to do that, and then SOI. So SOI, we teach that you do 2 mailers a month. We do the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday of every month anyway. So if they're that far out, then you want to put them in just an SOI rotation. So let's see here. So as for Inside 30, you simply use your calendar. You contact them. You add them to the next. You add the next time you plan to contact them on your calendar, right? So I mean, if I'm talking to somebody today and they're an Inside 30, and I know I'm going to call them and say, let's say they're saying, well, I'm going out of town. I'll be back on such and such a date. So they tell me they're going to be back on a Sunday, so I'm going to call like maybe Monday afternoon. So it's real simple, right? You just add them to your calendar. I always recommend you put their name and their phone number in the calendar event. So it's kind of like the subject line, right? So again, mix it up. So here's what it would look like if you have an Android phone, right? So I would add, so this is a calendar event. So let's say today was the event. I opened up my calendar on my phone. I tapped on the event, and that's what it looks like. I just tapped the phone number. It's that simple. You tap the meeting, tap the phone number, and you're off the dialing. You talk to them. You finish speaking with them. You open up your calendar, and you add them to the next follow-up date, or you can actually just change the date that edit this event. Just push your pencil, change the date and time to when you're going to call them again, and it'll just be on your calendar. Just keep them like that. That's for people that you're planning to call. So, because if it's a mailer, they're going out on every Tuesday. I mean, it's just that simple. So if they're in that kind of rotation, so don't complicate this. You use the Google. I always tell people Google. Look, Google is arguably one of the most successful companies that has existed in the history of mankind. If their software is good enough for them to run the most successful business ever, I think you can run your real estate practice. In fact, I'm convinced you could. So anyway, so I recommend you make lead follow-up calls after. This is a great one. This is anytime you have a positive event, right? Let's talk about that for a second. You ever take, you follow up with somebody and they're like, and you go list their house and you walk out of there. I mean, you get a good listing sign, it's like 290 grand and it's going to sell in a couple of days. And you're just sitting there going, Fat City, that was awesome. You walk, you're strolling out of there. You're walking a half inch off the ground. What I recommend is you get in your car and you open up your lead list and you start making calls, because that energy you have when you walk out of that appointment, right, is you can't fake that. If I could put that in a bottle and sell that energy, I'd be the richest guy in Babylon. So, what do you call it? So that energy is invaluable. So take advantage of it every time you do something. So you're taking a listing, right? Signed a buyer agency contract. I do buyer, what I call buyer. I call it to the client. I tell them it's buyer orientation, but really to me, it's a buyer listing appointment, right? So I meet with a buyer, go through the process, get them to sign a buyer agency contract. When it feels good when you close a contract like that, sign one, right? So then the same thing. So other things, right? You execute a purchase contract, right? You're out there negotiating. You're one of 5 guys bidding on the property. You get it signed. You negotiated a really good deal for your client. Boom, you feel good. Pick up the phone, start making lead follow-up calls. So after a settlement, right? Get your clients, walk them down to the car or walk them to the elevator or whatever, and then go back into the conference room at the title company, pull out your leads and start calling. I mean, the energy, I'm telling you, you will increase your production if you make lead follow-up calls with that kind of juice going through your body. And your confidence is so high, right? When you have that spot, your confidence energy is so high, it's infectious. People are drawn to that kind of energy, right? People are drawn to that kind of energy. I mean, let's look at the opposite. You had a great offer on a property, and you didn't get it. You're suspecting that the listing agent never presented your offer because they had one of the offers or one of their friends had the other offer, and you're just feeling really bummed out, and then you're going to make lead follow-up calls. That's not a good time to do it. I mean, people are repelled by Eeyore, right? I always say, I wanted to have this idea for a training, a program where we call it Winnie the Pooh, Pooh's brokerage or something like that. We're going to farm 99 acres or whatever it's called, 100 acres. And then, you know, you got Tigger's the top producing agent in the company, and Eeyore's that guy at the office that's always drinking coffee, never does any deals, but bitches about everything. So when you're in that kind of mood, you know, it's not a good time. But think about it, when the other side of the deal, when you have all this positive energy, great time to pick up the phone and make some calls. It's just so powerful, right? So Q&A, that was it. Today's was a short one, but I hope that so. If you got any questions, you can either instant message me through the system, or you can just unmute your phone and just go ahead and ask anything you want, and we'll be glad to handle it. Anything, anybody. So he's telling me I'm always amazed at how quiet it can be. So if nobody has any questions, let's see. Any questions? Any questions? So I just sent everybody a little instant chat, so you can chat your question if you like, or you just unmute your phone and then and go ahead and ask. So, well, if we don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the call. This session was recorded. It will be online. There's a link on the website where you know, got the information. That's, I think it says recorded calls or past webinars, something like that. There's also recorded calls there, group calls. We've done group calls over the last year. We try to do those every other week, and they're labeled with entitled what they are. Those are basically webinars without a PowerPoint, right? So anyway, without further ado, I will bid you guys all farewell. Hope you have a wonderful and prosperous day. Hello? Somebody there? Okay.